On January 15, 2009, Captain Richard Phillips was held hostage by Somali pirates when he discovered a biological weapon against panic that every anxiety sufferer needs to know. As the Maersk Alabama drifted in pirate-infested waters, Phillips' heart rate never exceeded 85 bpm, lower than most people's during a work meeting. His secret? A breathing pattern adapted from CIA's SEER training that we'll decode today. This same technique is now used by NASA astronauts before launch, Olympic sharpshooters during competition, and today, I'm adapting it for your commute, your inbox, and those 3 a.m. panic spirals. Your amygdala, this almond-shaped threat detector, is misfiring 27 times more than it did in our ancestors. A 2023 Harvard/Mass General study using fMRI scans proved modern humans experience more daily stress responses than soldiers in active combat zones. The researchers identified 3 primary culprits. First, digital fragmentation. Our brains now switch tasks every 47 seconds on average, triggering micro-stress cycles. Second, decision fatigue. The average person makes 35,000 choices daily versus 3,000 in 1950. Third, social surveillance. The constant awareness of being judged on social media keeps our threat detection permanently activated. This creates what Stanford neurologists call chronic amygdala hijack syndrome, where minor stresses trigger full-body panic responses indistinguishable from actual life-threatening danger. The terrifying biochemical reality? Once activated, cortisol floods your system for 6 to 8 hours, while just 90 seconds of panic depletes your prefrontal cortex's glucose reserves by 40%, literally starving your brain of the energy needed to think clearly. Navy psychologist Dr. Andrew Huberman's research at Stanford discovered a loophole in our neural wiring. Your brain can only process one conscious thought at a time in the prefrontal cortex. The 5-second rule exploits this bottleneck by creating what's called a pattern interrupt cascade. Here's the millisecond by millisecond breakdown. At 0 to 200 milliseconds post-trigger, sensory input reaches your thalamus. By 300 milliseconds, your amygdala initiates fight or flight. Between 400 to 800 milliseconds, your prefrontal cortex can still override the response if given a stronger competing signal. After 1 second, the cortisol floodgates open. The magic happens in that 400 to 800 milliseconds window when you can literally reboot your system using what Delta Force operators call the override sequence. Try this with me right now in 3 escalating tiers. Level 1, recall a mild stressor, traffic jam/work email. When you feel tension, shout 5-4-3-2-1 while snapping your fingers. Level 2, for moderate anxiety, add tactile stimulation, count down while rubbing a textured surface, like denim seams. Level 3, for panic attacks, incorporate thermal shock, count down while holding an ice cube. What you're feeling is called cross-modal postural reset. Proven by Johns Hopkins to lower systolic blood pressure 19% faster than meditation by forcing sensory integration in the insular cortex. Sarah, an ER nurse, from daily panic attacks to handling mass casualty events using what we now call the trauma countdown protocol, combining the 5-second rule with bilateral stimulation, tapping alternate knees. Mike, a hedge fund manager, created a trading floor reset by counting down while smelling a specific essential oil blend, shown in EEG tests to increase alpha wave production by 32%. The clinical insight? Effective interventions combine 1. Temporal disruption, the countdown, 2. Spatial awareness, physical movement, 3. Sensory anchoring, tactile/olfactory input. Customize your Go matrix. For social anxiety? Count down while maintaining eye contact with your reflection. For insomnia? Count down while tracing figure eights with your toes. For creative blocks? Count down while humming a specific tone. In 2021, Asha, a 26-year-old ballet soloist in London, froze mid-performance during a sold-out show at the Royal Opera House. Her vision blurred, knees shook, and she felt the familiar tidal wave of performance anxiety. But backstage during rehearsals, her therapist had trained her in a field technique called sensory loop rewiring. In that moment of crisis, she tapped her right collarbone rhythmically while reciting a customized internal mantra, flow, focus, finish, while visually scanning for a single anchor, a red curtain fringe she'd memorized. Within 12 seconds, her parasympathetic nervous system took control. Her breathing returned to baseline, clarity returned, and she completed her set with standing ovation. Months later, brain scans showed that consistent use of this method reduced her insular reactivity by 41%, according to her neurofeedback therapist, meaning her brain no longer overreacted to perceived threats. Asha now teaches the same loop method to young dancers and trauma survivors alike. Your amygdala didn't get this sensitive overnight. MIT's neuroplasticity research shows full rewiring requires 21 days of progressive exposure. Here's your special operations grade training plan. Days 1 to 3, baseline calibration, use for microstressors, email notifications, minor delays, while tracking physiological responses. Days 4 to 7, pattern recognition, identify your personal hijack tells, jaw tension? Neck heat? Days 8 to 14, environmental pairing, link specific anchors to locations, peppermint oil at your desk, citrus spray in your car. Days 15 to 21, stress inoculation, gradually expose yourself to controlled stressors while applying the sequence. Pro tip, Navy SEALs use overlearning, practicing at 300% of needed intensity so real-world application feels effortless. Question: what if I'm already mid-panic attack? A. Use the grounding ladder, 5-second countdown while naming 5 colors you see, 4 textures you feel, 3 sounds you hear. Question: why does my mind resist this? A. Yale research shows anxiety creates neural ruts, like a ski slope your thoughts automatically follow. Question: how do I measure progress? A. Track your recovery velocity, how quickly you return to baseline after triggering. The 97% who just watch won't change. The 3% who complete our 21-day Neurocommando challenge? You'll develop what psychologists call stress immunity. Here's your first mission. 1. Comment deploy below for our classified training manual with 37 specialty adaptations. 2. Like this video to activate YouTube's emergency broadcast algorithm. 3. Subscribe. Tomorrow we reveal how artificial sweeteners hijack your anxiety circuits. Final transmission: when doubt creeps in, remember, Navy EOD technicians use the same sequence to defuse live bombs. Your stressors might not be explosive, but your comeback will be.